We are recording the interview of Jim Fincher. This interview is being conducted by Jennifer Stevie from Wright State University's Veterans Voices Project. This interview is being recorded at Hope Hotel in Dayton, Ohio. It is 4:30 p.m. on May 19th, 2017. Okay, Jim, where and when were you born?
Born May 5th, 1942 in Batavia, New York.
Okay. Who were your parents and what were their occupations?
My dad was James Curtis Fincher Sr., called Kurt. He was a laborer, basically. He ended up in sales. My mother was a stay-at-home mother for 16 years. Then she went to work in the kitchen at the high school, which is just up the street from us.
Okay. Do you have any siblings?
I have a brother and a sister. Sister's a year and a half younger, and her brother is 9 years younger.
Did they serve in the military as well?
Neither one of them. My brother had a very high draft number.
What were you doing before you entered the service?
Basically finishing college. And then I interviewed for a couple of jobs, and one of the questions they asked is, what's your draft status? I was from 1A. They basically said, thank you very much for coming to see us. Come back when you've taken care of your military obligations.
So there's certain draft statuses that you have more of a chance of being drafted than other people?
1A, tops.
What were the qualifications for you to be first as compared to last?
Well, you're healthy. 4F means you got flat feet, or there's something wrong with you, you can't see, you've got high blood pressure, you've got a deformity of some kind. And 4F means you're not fit for military service. You can't carry a rifle.
Okay. So you were in the Air Force?
In the Air Force.
And you were drafted? Or
Not
did you?
Drafted.
Okay.
I heard from a fraternity brother of mine that there was a program the Air Force had, a direct commissioning program, which means you get your college degree, you fill out a bunch of papers and mail them off to the Air Force, and they'll either will or will not give you a commission without going through ROTC or OTS or any of that kind of stuff. So I did that, and I was accepted for the program. I became a Medical Service Corps officer in the Air Force. I went to see my local attorney, who was a notary public. I raised my hand, he swore me in. I took care of my 1A status, draft status. In fact, I got a draft notice just a little while later, and I was able to
What were you?
show him a piece of paper.
Now, what were you going to school for?
Industrial relations, business. Industrial relations.
Those are two different things then.
It's quite different things, yeah. Business, and medical service, of course, is a business. Hospitals are big business.
That's true. So, did you go to basic training then?
We went to Gunter Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama, in January of 1965, when Martin Luther King was running the freedom marches from that city just up the road from Montgomery. I can't even think of what it's called now. But all those freedom marches came across the bridge, and there's a big flap nationwide. And I was down there, I took a car with New York tags on it. Made me a little spooky to be in Alabama with New York tags, but nothing happened. I think that little blue sticker in the windshield that says I was in the Air Force might have made some difference.
How did you adapt to military life?
Easily. I was a Boy Scout. In fact, I was an Eagle Scout, as was my brother, as was my son, and his sons, which is great. One of the first things we did, and I don't think any other troops did that, is to learn how to march. It gave us all discipline, you know, left turn, right turn, about face, all that sort of thing. And we marched in the parades during high school. So I guess I was kind of acclimated to the discipline, the military side of things. I didn't have any problem.
Do you recall any of your instructors?
In the military? Mm-hmm. Yeah. God. The guy was from Fox, Arkansas. And when I was stationed at Charleston, I went to see him. And he was still the same guy he was before he retired. I cannot think of his name. Yeah, I can't think of any of the instructors' names. I can see 2 or 3 faces, but I can't think of any names.
Did you receive any specialized training?
The Air Force had a program called the Air Force Institute of Technology program for medical administration. You apply, and they send you to school. So I applied, and I got accepted. I got sent to the University of Pittsburgh for 2 years, well, for 1 year of academic training. The Air Force paid my full pay and allowances, plus the tuition, plus books, which is the only way to take a master's degree. It's great. And then I was at Pittsburgh for a year, and then I was at Wright-Patterson for about 9 months doing a residency. And then I got shipped off to Mountain Home, Idaho. It's a great, great place to be. Idaho's a wonderful state.
Okay, so what did you do while you were out there?
In Idaho? Mm-hmm. We had horses, again. I would ride the Snake River Canyon with a .22 tucked in the saddle, and if I saw any coyotes, I'd shoot them. And we did a lot of fishing, we did camping, took the horses up into the hills, and remember one night we took the horses and put them in a sheep corral. It was only about maybe as high as this table. They could have got out if they wanted to. But we bunked out in a little tent there. We woke up in the morning to hear clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop. It was a deer walked right in front of the tent. The horses didn't care.
That's great.
That's kind of neat. But it's just a great place to be stationed.
What kind of work did you do when you were out there?
First I was the medical supply officer, and then I got into some straight up administration, the registrar, patient records, patient affairs kind of thing.
Where was how long were you there before your next station?
Only there for 2.5 years. I could have spent my whole life up there. Then I got sent to the Philippines. And over in the Philippines, I was the guy that wrote the after action report for Operation Baby Lift, which was when the Americans pulled out, or were pulling out of Vietnam. There was a whole bunch of orphans. Some of them mixed race, some of them pure Vietnamese. And the State Department, I guess, decided that we would bring these orphans back to the United States and find them a home. And we filled up, I don't know how many airplanes, a bunch. And I forget the number, but there was a bunch of babies. Bunch of babies we brought back. And some of them were really sick, and some of them weren't sick at all. They all came through the hospital at the Philippines. And they all got checked out, and they all got fed well, and gave a nice, comfortable bed, and they all kept moving on back to the States.
Sweet.
It's a fun place.
I've not heard of that one before.
Oh, the Philippines is a fun place to be, too. You go up into the mountains where it's cool, or you stay down in an air base where it's not.
How long were you in the Philippines?
I was only there 15 months. 15 months. And then I went to, where did I go? Oh, Rapid City, South Dakota. That was kind of fun.
What did you do there?
Patient affairs in the hospital. I had a horse there. didn't do any riding didn't do any hunting from horseback. Did some riding. Went up in the Black Hills and hunted deer. Most of it I just got lost. Did that once. That's scary.
So after that, how long were you there, and then what did you do after that?
I was only there a year, a week, and a day. Didn't much care for it. But then I went to San Antonio, to Brooks Air Force Base.
What did you do there?
And I was technical services. What did I do? My outfit dealt with a lot of contracts. What the School of Aerospace Medicine medical research folks did there is being done here at the Aerospace Medical Research Lab here at Wright-Patterson.
Oh.
So we did a lot of contracts, had a lot of contracts from outside services, and I wrote a contract and based it after one that the Aerospace Medical Research Lab had up here, which allowed our scientists to get on the phone and talk to a specialist somewhere. There was one guy that kind of fired out all the tasks. He'd talk to this guy, and this guy would go out and find an expert in that field and tie him up with a scientist. So this contract I built was wonderful for the scientists to get all kinds of outside information that they would have not otherwise have had.
Fantastic.
That's probably the one thing I did is wonderful.
So after that, where were you stationed?
Let's see, from Brooks, I went to Charleston. I was the administrator of the clinic at Charleston. And that was kind of fun too. You know, Charleston's pretty hot and humid, but it's still a nice place. I get to see the ocean, and it dealt with the Navy. Had a big Navy hospital there. That was kind of fun. And from Charleston, I went to MAC headquarters. Where is that? In O'Fallon, Illinois. I can't think of the name of the base. Terrible getting old. Anyway, I was the director of medical readiness for MAC Military Airlift Command headquarters. So we had all the aerovac underneath us for looking at purposes. And we had medical planning to make sure we could bring the casualties back from the war if it ever occurred overseas. I got to travel to Bethesda and talk to the Navy physicians who were learning things administrative. Again, talking about the movement of casualties and this and that. And that was a fun tour. I was up there for 4 years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I went took a downgrade and went to Little Rock Air Force Base where I retired.
Okay.
Yeah. I asked the wife, "Where do you want to retire?" She said, "Oh, anywhere, as long as it's in Arkansas." She was from Arkansas.
And what did you do when you were in Arkansas?
At the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
I was the administrator there.
Oh, okay. So pretty much you stayed.
Oh yeah, I was always in the administrative arena. Yeah.
So you retired from the military. Was that your plan?
It was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When I came back from Vietnam, when it was time to return from Vietnam. In Vietnam, I bought a couple of these little bitty, at the time, little bitty tape recorders. They had a reel-to-reel, just a little tape about that size, little thing. I sent one to my parents and one to my wife. And we would talk letters. Instead of getting writer's cramp, we'd talk. So I'd send them back. And we got talking, what am I going to do when I come back to the States? And she said, I don't know, not many jobs around here, blah, blah, blah. So I walked over to the personnel office and said, hey, can I raise my hand and stick around for a while? And they said, sure. So I decided to stick around, and I did for 26 years.
When you came back from Vietnam, how were you received by the community, your family and friends?
I was lucky nobody spit at me. Maybe they're lucky, I'm not sure. I was received all right. No, I was received fine. I can remember going into the San Francisco airport in uniform and kind of looking over my shoulder, wondering, am I going to be attacked or hollered at or spit on or something? Nothing. Nothing. I got back to New York, where we're from, it's Jamestown, New York. It's a very conservative area. Not many Looney Tunes up there. That was good. That was good. But I'm really glad to see that the American public has turned around and left that hippie attitude behind. That's the way it should be, as far as I'm concerned.
So, while you were overseas, do you have any other memories that you'd like to share? Anything, was there an event that stood out to you?
Tet Offensive was an event. When I went to Vietnam, I went with the Aerovac flight, the 7-number Union here. There's, I don't know, 30 or 40 guys that went over. I was one of 4 officers, I think. But I was a supply officer. I wasn't a regular administration guy. I was a medical supply officer. And when I got there, the squadron commander came up after we'd been there about a week, and he knew I was a supply guy, and he said, well, you're coming with me back to the headquarters down in Saigon. And we'll give you some PCS orders here in a little while. Well, 7 months later, I got my PCS orders, permanent change of station. So I was on temporary duty for 7 months. And every day I got $3 extra. And so as a first lieutenant, I got combat pay, and such as it was. I got hazardous duty pay because I was on flying status, additional crew member status. I got TDY status, I got a tax break, came back to the States and bought a new car and a house full of furniture and paid cash for it. So that did me well. I did not have a problem in Vietnam. I got shot at a couple times, nothing personal, you know, that's what happens in war. I can recall once I was sitting in, I was in a C-119, which is a 2-engine prop job, 2-engine propeller job. And I was sitting there towards the front of the aircraft, my feet propped up on the wheel of an artillery piece, reading a Zangray book. And I look in the back of the airplane, and these guys are running around looking at things. And I didn't know what happened. We got down to the ground and discovered that the enemy had stitched the back of the aircraft with a machine gun, hit it about 7 times, went right across the tailgate. Boom. Another one I was on a Aerovac flight going into the home of the 1st Air Cav Division. I don't remember where that was now, somewhere in the central part of Vietnam. We were in a C-141, we had a truckload of casualties in the airplane, moving them, some from smaller places into this big hospital at the home of the Big Red One, home of the 1st Air Cav, different. Then we picked up some others, going to move them out to the coast where Mac would pick them up and take them back to the States. And we got all set to go, buttoned up the hatches. The guy turned the key and the number 1 engine wouldn't start. And, well, let's try number 2 engine. It went up, 3 went off, 4 went off, number 1 wouldn't start. They got another C-130 in front of the one we were in and had it fire up its engines, to create a draft. Hopefully they get the engine started and make it go. No go. All right, they shut down all the engines, opened up the doors, let the air come in. The crew chief got a stand, one of those ladder stands, went out there, went up into the engine, took the cowling off the engine, and looked up in there and he saw that the fuel line had been crimped by a bullet. Just at the height of its apogee, it punched through the cowling and just binged the fuel line, crimped it so the fuel wouldn't go in. If it had a few more foot-pounds of pressure, it could have broken that fuel line. You got fuel going out the back end. That's very, very hot exhaust. Something bad would have happened. We'd have either gone down in flames, which is probably not the case. We'd probably they just shut the engine off and run on 3 engines.
Wow.
Spooky. Spooky.
Were you guys able to get it fixed and go on then?
Yeah, no problem. There's all kinds of fuel lines apparently out there. Only took maybe a half hour to get it fixed, and away we went. During the Tet Offensive, I was living in Saigon. Now I spent my whole tour in Saigon. 5 of us officers had a house. We had, for $500 a month, which is a lot of money back then, 5 of us put in $500. It was all the booze we could drink, all the food we could eat. 2 girls. One was the cook. She spoke a little English, and the other one was the cleaning girl. She didn't speak any English at all. And there was no hanky-panky. No, you don't want to mess up a good thing. That was a good thing.
Yeah.
So all we had to do was go there and mix a drink. And they went out and got the food, local. Occasionally, we would go out to the commissary and buy some food. We ate a lot of Vietnamese food, and I got to really enjoy it.
Were you guys able to have any downtime to go and explore or visit?
Oh yeah, sure. So, weekends were free. I was a little bit of a baby, a little bit of a spooky about the Viet Cong just running around all over Saigon. You know, there's stories of a Vietnamese guy driving a scooter, and everybody had scooters. There were scooters, millions of scooters, and a woman on the back of the scooter with a .45. They'd just drive by a GI, pop him, you know, just because he's a GI, American. So I wasn't real thrilled about going downtown. We all went downtown, but when we did, it was in a crowd, so somebody came after you with a knife, you got a chance of survival. Best French onion soup I ever had in my life was in a little hole in the wall off the main drag somewhere down in there. Vietnam is French. It was French, and they had good food. My brother teaches in Vietnam now. Brother's a teacher. My brother is a lawyer who never practiced law. He's an arbitrator, but he has an international reputation because he's written a book or two on arbitration mediation through the Cornell University. He's a Rhodes Scholar. He doesn't go there to learn, he goes there to teach. He spent 4 months in Vietnam. I think he lost 30 pounds because he ate what they eat, which is, you know, rice and vegetables. No processed sugar, no big fats. Now, why did I say that? Oh, the nuoc mam. There's a sauce they make in Vietnam. It's called nuoc mam, Nuocman, I think it is. And it's basically you take the entrails of a fish, the heads and the guts and the skin, and you add some vinegar and some water, and you put them in a clay pot and put them out in the sun for a few weeks. Stink up, it's terrible. But there's a little bung at the bottom, and you open the bung, you take off the fluid. And we went to our landlord's house one night, and he served nuoc mam. I was amazed. Very delicate flavor, very nice. Just pour it on your rice. Ah, great. Yeah, great stuff. Oh,
So
the Tet Offensive.
yeah.
We were in bed, of course. All 5 of us up there, sacked out. All of a sudden, rockets started going over the house. We lived about 3 or 4. We could walk to the main gate, 4 or 5 blocks, and the rockets started going over the house. You roll out of bed, you hit that concrete floor, and you try to dig a hole with your elbows. It didn't work very well. But you could hear them landing down the road, boom, boom, boom. And everybody got told we had radios because we got intelligence that something was up. So whoever was on the other end of the radio said, "Nobody report for duty. Stay where you are until the Army gets us under control." Okay, so we did. And we watched an Apache helicopter attack Viet Cong maybe a block and a half down the road. All you could hear was, you see the helicopter just sitting there going, was shooting. Just so many,
Wow.
6,000 rounds a minute or something, just phenomenal. And 2 days later, we went back to work, and we didn't know much else.
Was there much like noticeable damage that you saw, or?
I didn't see much. Now the BOQ down the road, the Bachelor Officers Corps got some from getting hit by gunfire, our own.
Very cool. So, let's see. Now this is one of your reunions. There's been 3, right? Have you gone to all of them?
I've been 3. No, there've been 4 or 5,
Okay.
actually. It was Charleston, down in Georgia, back to Charleston, and here. I guess there's 4. And now, because I went down to Saigon, I didn't know these guys that are gathered here very well. They went out in the woods. They went out to places that were not healthy for humans and other living creatures. But they lived in the ground if they had to. They had tents with sandbags, high enough to protect against anything but a direct hit. Some of them went to places like Quezon where you did live in the ground. Those poor Marines, I don't know how they do that. God. I'm glad there's Marines, and I'm glad I'm not one of them. But these guys, I just didn't have anything, I didn't deal with them. I dealt with the guys that were at the detachments of the squadron. And these guys were a flight. They just went from here, there, they come back. They go out there and spend a week, 2 or 3. When the battle's gone, they come back, kind of thing.
Okay.
So I feel a little like I really shouldn't be here because I'm not one of them. But they don't look at it that way. So that's fine. Good. Now, Jay McCausland, who's kind of just here, I ran into him over the course of 20 years a bunch of times. And we were assigned to Pope to start with, way back when, at the same time.
Okay. Have you kept in contact with anybody else that you were overseas with?
One guy, and then he died of alcoholism. Not related to the military, though. He just liked to drink. They killed him. Yeah, dummy.
Are you a member of any veteran organizations?
Life member of the American Legion. Life member of the Disabled American Veterans. Nothing with the VFW or the Vietnam Veterans of America or anything. Just those 2.
Okay.
I'm not very active, but I'm a life member. So I'm adding my voice to the call for action.
So, what have you done since you've retired from the military? What have you been up to?
Around. I sold real estate for a little while. Absolutely hated it. When I retired in September, that December, a real good buddy of mine graduated from chiropractor school. He started chiropractor school late, like 40 years old. Did really well because he's smart. And he and I opened up his office. And after 3 years, I was just bored out of my gourd. All I did was fill out papers and go to the bank. He was eminently successful. Got my money back. I financed some of his equipment. Got my money back, and he was making money, and so I left, and then just basically retired, and piddled around doing this and that and the other thing. Right now, I'm president of Chautauqua Rails to Trails Incorporated, which is a Rails to Trails organization up there, and that keeps me as busy as I want to be.
Okay.
Our motto is take a hike.
All right, so we're gonna wind down here a little bit. How did your wartime experiences affect your life?
How did my wartime experiences affect
Or your
me?
military experience. You can add it all in
Oh,
there.
well, one of the reasons I stayed in the military is for the retirement. It's very nice. Not so nice now, but it was very nice then. A lot of stories to tell. Of course, you have stories wherever you worked, I guess. You'll be able to talk about this whatever it is you're doing here, as the life goes by. Oh, I learned to think, to master's level. That's the one thing they really taught you, is how to think. I can remember one guy at Pope, we got talking about, how do you know what to do with this aerovac stuff? He said, don't worry about what the rules. Your job is to get that casualty onto the airplane and move him where he can get fixed. That's it. Very simple. And if you keep that in mind, that same thought process applies to most jobs you've got. What's your job? Oh, it's to do, you know, whatever's the simplest thing you can think of. That's your job. Do it. And if people get in the way, well, go around them. Go through them. Get the job done. Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing, learning how to think.
Okay. How has your military service impacted your feelings about the war and the military in general?
Most military folks are relatively conservative, I believe. I'm quite conservative. I wasn't really all that thrilled with Donald Trump, but I was absolutely disgusted with the opponent. I better not say a whole lot more about that. I'll get on to a rant, and I don't want to do that. But again, I'm real glad that the American public has begun to see value in the serviceman. It's not like the serviceman goes out looking to kill people. It's the politicians who send them to go kill people. And we've got to make sure that they can do that job as better than anybody else. One, I don't want to say final thing, another thing I forgot to say. I had a great time in Vietnam. I was 23 years old, too dumb to know better. I had blanket orders to allow me to go anywhere in the Pacific area, jump on any aircraft in the Pacific area, and I did. And I got to see Tokyo, I got to see Hong Kong, I got to see Bangkok, I got to see the Philippines. I got to see many places in Vietnam. Got to meet a lot of folks, do a lot of things. Some weren't so fun, but some were some fun. I had a great time over there. A lot of folks did not have a great time over there. I understand that. People say, "You had a good time, really?" I go, "Well, yeah. I knew enough to keep down and keep away from the bullets." So I had a good time.
Good. Good. What message would you like to leave for future generations who will watch this interview?
Oh my. Make the most of it wherever you are. Whatever you're doing, whether it's the military or a civilian position, make the most of it. If you don't like what you're doing, find something you do like to do. You only get one life and you got to live it the best you can.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I believe that'll do it.
Okay. Well, that concludes our interview, and thank you for your service.
All right. Thank you.